Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well. Welcome to tonight's second bonus. Before we jump on into it, couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment, share the video. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to tonight's second bonus, shall we? Alright folks, so a couple of days ago I had shared a interview with a good friend of the channel and a good friend of mine, Big Bill, out of Walla Walla, Washington. And for the longest time I had wondered how he was and whatnot and how everything was going for him. And then he reached back out to me and said, "Hey, how are you?" And I said, "I am doing great. Would you like to come back on the channel and share again? Share the past, present, and what's going on in the future for you?" And he said, "Absolutely." So here is part 2. Bill, how are you?
I'm good. Good, Jeff. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Great. You and I had a chance to talk a little bit before, catch up, and it's been great talking to you. How's everything been though, for the most part?
It's been good. We got a lot of snow right now, and but you know what happened, Jeff, is I was listening to one of your programs on a Dogman deal, and I got mad. I got really mad at him, and I kind of went from being scared of him to just mad.
Yeah.
And I thought, they're just a terrible little creature. I don't see any reason for him to be here, and I just got mad, and I got to the place where I'm going to go back up as soon as the snow goes off. It'll be a couple months, but I'm going to go back up. I'm not scared of him no more because I think I've learned enough now, and I think they travel so much that that they might not even be in the same area. I don't know. I just don't know. It depends on how much they're pushed and things like that. Probably. I think they've got a big area. I think there's probably 100 of them in Washington, maybe. I hear, but. That gives them a hell of an area to run in.
Yeah. For the people that aren't familiar with who you are, you don't have to get into the whole old interview, but can you kind of just give us a little recap of what you experienced, where you are, and what you went through?
What started it all was we were up just getting mushrooms, and I could have smelled something off when we got over toward our bluff. It just smelled dead. Something did. And so, I told the kids, I had my grandchildren with me and my son-in-law, and I just told them, "Hey, you just watch the grandchildren." We all have pistols on us because we got the wolves up there, and that's the only basic thing we're worried about. That and the cougars and maybe a bear or get in between them and their cubs. But so I walked about 100 yards, and I came upon the cow. She was dead, laying in the buckbrush. The buckbrush is like 2 feet high there, 3 feet high. It was just starting to get green and starting to get little buds on it and stuff. But it was an odd thing to look at. The cow's down, and don't. I'm looking for the legs tore up and the neck tore up. I don't see nothing, and I'm kind of trying to take this in, and I look over to my left, and on the road that's right next to it. Here's this bull laying about 50 yards away, and so I go walking over there, and it's eating all the way to the back of the shoulder, and straight through, like a chainsaw went through it. No bones anywhere, no hide nowhere, except the hide was rolled up right at that area. Was rolled up, and you could tell it was trying to get at the meat, which was showing me kind of a little pulling that hair up, but the rest of the hair, it was all gone. There was no other hair from the rear end laying there. Didn't look like they were there that long. The bull, maybe that's where I was getting the smell from. The cow wasn't even really bloated that much, but just had a little smell. And I if the wind wouldn't have been right, I probably wouldn't even have smelled it. But it was just an odd thing, and I the whole way through it, I'm trying to think of a wolf. That's basically what's going to take him down in my area, or a cat. But they take one down. Like I said before, they go at the hams, and one of them will run it till he gets tired. The other one will run it till he's tired. Then they ham him, and they flank him, and get him spinning around. And the other ones go for the nose and head and whatever, and they drag him down. But that's what bothered me is having them 50 yards apart. When they're dragging the one down, usually the other elk, they're getting the hell out of there. There's kind of a salt lick by there. There was an old salt lick by there, and I think those elk would come into that salt lick, and then that's where they got taken. But usually, I've never seen anything like two together. Never in my life. And that just kind of bothered me, and that's when I went home and started getting kind of mad that I thought it was really I thought it could have been a cat, maybe two cats, but if they were breeding, but that's just hard for them to get two down like that at the same area. That's just unheard of too on
right.
Cats. So I figured it had to have been wolves, and I don't like wolves, but they're federally protected. So I got the guns, and I went up there. I took a 10 gauge up and a pistol and a rifle, and I went up inside the gate there, and I thought I'll just sneak in there and I'll catch something eating the rest of that one and see what the hell it is. And so I got up there and was just real quiet and parked by the gate there and grabbed my 10 gauge, and I don't even know if I put my pistol on my side, because I had the 10 gauge. It was double barrel, side by side, extra full. It was full and extra full. Hell, you could shoot geese out at 60, 70 yards with that damn thing. And I think I had 4.5 inch shells. They were real big, old shell, the old steels.
Okay.
Double on duck. And so I put them in there, and I got out toward the bluff there. I'm walking real slow and just going over there. And it's not that far. It's only 500 yards. And so 600 yards. So I go over there real slow, and I get up to that area, and the one elk was full, and she's just gone. It just no hair, no nothing, and which is very strange. Cats and everything else, they'll leave traces of the hair and everything. You always find that, and maybe some bone or whatever spread out a little bit, but it was just totally gone. So I go over to the left where the bull was, and the bull, he had at the time he had like 5 inch nubbins on there, but he was all gone, and all was there was just a jawbone, a little piece of jawbone about 4 inches long. I could see where the curve was, and it was obviously a jawbone. I've been around enough heads, skinning heads out and stuff, but it was a jawbone. And I just kind of bent over there just thinking, and that's when I heard a little bit of a growl and something like that. I was like, okay, something knows I'm here, and I don't see him, and something's wrong here, and I know where they're at. They're over the bluff, down that ridge, over the bluff, because you go up from the road there just about 50 yards, and there's a rock bluff that goes about, probably goes a mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile, and it's just a straight up and down bluff about 50 feet, and then it goes down to round rock, and shrubbery and everything else. It's really come up to, and when I heard that growl, I just backed off. I just started backing up. And I just watched, where that was coming from, and just kept backing up, and just went real slow. And then I backed all the way out. I didn't hear it no more. And that's when I put my 10 gauge away and grabbed my rifle. I didn't even have my pistol. I don't even think I took my pistol, but I took my rifle. And I filled up my gun with 3 and one in the chamber. And so I walked down there to the left and went way down there to a creek across the ridge and went around the backside. It took me a little while. It took me about a half hour to get over there like that, the way I was going around. And so I knew I could get up to that ridge and nothing's going to know where I'm at there unless they can smell me, which I didn't think there was enough breeze or nothing. And so I got down there and I looked around and that's when I didn't see nothing. I sat there for a half hour. Finally, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go home. And that's when I stood up, and that's when all crap happened. And, you know, I stood up, and that's when I seen there's something down there. And I knew right where it was down there. I knew the brush. The brush was real tall and stuff. And that's when I saw the one. And I thought, basically, when I took the first shot, I thought the one was a wolf with his front feet up on a log. I just couldn't, my mind couldn't comprehend what I was looking at, basically. Right. And you know, about that time, I felt a little breeze on my back, and I knew it was going downhill there around that ridge, and I was like, oh, boy. And you know, normally a wolf will just, or a bear, or anything will see you, smell you, whatever, they just turn around and run. And cats, they all do that. And the only time a bear will take you is you get by their cubs, basically.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when I took the one shot and I knew I hit it, I knew I was like, oh, this is something wrong here, you know, and that's when I seen it, you know, it started growling real good, and I took the other shot, and you know, it bucked on my shoulder. I put it down, and I just saw the last little bit of slobber going up and stuff like that, and it went right down, and I'm like, by then my heart's starting to pound pretty good, and I stood up and put another 2 shells in my gun, and that's when they running to the right from where they were over to that creek down the ridge there, and going from my left to my right. And it's only probably I'm gonna say 150 yards away, 100 yards away. They're real easy, and the first shot I took, I hit behind him. I mean, I definitely hit behind him. And I, at that time, I'm like, I was trying to comprehend, you know, seeing something run that fast. And I knew I couldn't get a shot at the other one. He was about ready to hit the timber and the creek bottom. And so I put it on the other one and put a little bit further ahead of him and shot. And I think I hit it maybe in the rear end. I just didn't know at the time. I thought maybe I did. It all happened real fast like that. And I thought they were leaving the country. They were so big. I thought, man, these are the biggest wolves I've ever seen in my life. These are huge. I mean, they're, you know, I don't know how they can eat that much food to get that big. I was still trying to comprehend what I was looking at. That's right. When I knew right then that they were either going to go up that draw, which I was about, you know, I was kind of 80% sure they were just leaving the country, except everything looked wrong. Too big in the front, and you know, so I leave my pack and I start backing up on that ridge, you know, to one little tree to another. They're just little pines, you know, they're 30 feet high, 40 feet high, whatever, you know, 6 inches across. And I stood up and I turned my scope down, and because I knew they were going to come out close, you know, maybe 50 yards or 40 yards or something like that. And the trail coming around the ridge is a little bit on the left, not much, but it comes right up and stops about where my pack is. That's where it gets onto the ridge. And so I had backed up, and that's when I seen the one go from down to up. And he's probably 60 or 50 yards away, 40 yards away. And when he went up and put his hand on the tree, kind of around it, I thought that's what he was doing. I was still trying to figure out what I'm looking at. And I was just getting a real bad feeling. My hair started to go up on my back of my neck a little bit. And I knew something was wrong here, because I'd never seen a wolf or a bear or anything like do what that thing could do. And I put my gun right on him, and because it was already up against the tree when I seen him. And I took the shot as I started to step either away from the tree toward me or down. And I hit him right through the eye socket on the top, I think right of that one eye. On the right eye, I think it was. And he just made a big hop and slammed in the ground. I felt it through my feet when he hit the hillside, kind of boom. And then he hopped again, boom, boom, and rolled over a couple times and was kicking in the brush, you know, kick like a dead thing does, you know, a deer.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to figure out what the hell. I know there's another one here somewhere. And so I'm kind of going, where's that other one? I just figured he'd be right with him there, and I'm looking left. I knew he wouldn't come to the right because there's a big open hillside on the right side of that ridge, and so I knew he was going to either come right for me or he'd be right there, or maybe he left. The other one had left the country. I didn't know. Well, so I'm kind of looking over the ridge to the left, going, make sure he doesn't, to my side, down the ridge there a little bit, coming around me, and I looked down there, and I could see one of them. He was coming around through that brush right there, and I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. And by that time, he's about equal with me there on the ridge, but down below me, and on the left side there, and I just I grabbed a rock, and I threw it behind him, and it clanged across the hillside I couldn't believe how much noise it made. I was like, oh, Jesus. And he stood right up and turned around, and I let him have it. And he just went right down, and I just rolled down the ridge. I never saw him no more. And by that time, I'm just freaking out. I'm like, okay, nothing stands up. By that time, I was sure the one that hadn't stood up on a tree, he was standing up, with nothing to hold on to.
Right. Now you're seeing.
Can't do that.
Yeah, you're seeing
a bear can get up, but he can't move like that.
Right.
And I'm just freaking. By then, I don't know if I should run or what. So I kind of walk over where he's laying there, and he's still kicking a little bit, and I'm thinking maybe I should shoot him again here. And then he just kind of stops moving, and I'm thinking, well, I know I got him. He wouldn't be hopping across the ground unless I hit him really hard. And then that's when I saw his eye kind of popped out a little bit, and I knew I hit him through the head, and I'd be just like, man, oh man. And I knew I hit the other one really hard on the side and on the head, and I knew he went down right, because I put it a little bit low by his neck, and I probably, bullet shooting downhill like that close there probably went up an inch from where I was shooting or two, but it was just the damnedest thing I ever been in through. Just changed my whole life on the mountains. Because like I told you before, I'd been up there my whole life, riding 2 months of every year, getting cattle out of the mountains in the dark, hunting up there in the watershed, doing everything.
Yeah, you grew up in that.
I'd never seen anything like that before. And my grandpa was a game commissioner, and I'd asked him about Bigfoot one time. When I was little, I asked him, I was probably 18, 20. I asked him, Grandpa, what do you think about Bigfoot? And he just looked at me real weird. And because he was a warden too. I got about 6 different badges that he wore, gold ones, the really nice ones. I got them all on a leather deal. And he looked at me real weird, and he said, Billy, there's something out there. We don't know what it is, but if you see something like that, don't shoot it. Leave it alone. Just back up and get the hell out of there. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him, and I was like, well, do you believe in him? And he didn't say nothing. And that ain't my grandpa.
Right.
And so I knew right then that he had seen something because he wouldn't tell me that. He never told me that.
No.
I was his eyes when we went up hunting. When he got so old that he couldn't hardly see, I was the guy that was supposed to point the buck out to him,
Yeah.
And
you had mentioned...
I got in trouble on those bluffs because the last time he hunted there, we ran that big basin there, and a big monster buck run out, and I was looking uphill, and he ran out the bottom, and I didn't get my grandpa on him, and I always felt bad about that my whole life. Because he didn't hunt no more after that.
Right.
He was about 80 or 75 or 80, and he couldn't see no more.
Yeah.
And, but I always felt bad about that.
Yeah, it was, he was probably happy just to be with his family doing what he loved,
Yeah. One of the other guys down the ridge got a snapshot at the buck as he was running out, and I just thought he was going out that ridge where I was standing when I shot those Dogman. But he went out the ridge down below through the under the bluff and just went out down. They'll run downhill. It's a way for him to get away from all the people.
Yeah. And
he stuck to the trees. He was a smart buck. We never got him.
You had mentioned while we were talking, and you just brought it up, and it reminded me of something. You had mentioned the watershed, and you had said that, I don't remember the year that you said it, but there was an older guy back some time ago that found a print of a Bigfoot. You want to fill us in on that?
Yeah, that was one of the first ones that were really ever found in my area. It was a big deal at the time. He was in a lot of magazines and everything else. and it was right on the edge of our place, right on the what's called the watershed line, and I had to do that fence along that whole watershed line every year, so I knew the area by heart. I was the only guy that could take my horse up in the middle of summer, get cattle out, because that's federal stuff. But I could go into the watershed, because if I didn't get the cattle out, they could fine me $450 a day, I think it was. But all my years, never got fined once, because I'd shut the machinery down and jump on the horses, get the horses, go all the way up there and try to get them out. And if I didn't get them out that day, I'd get them out the next day. But that's where they found the first Bigfoot track, was right up there on the edge of our property years and years ago. And just like I told you before, I saw the biggest coyote in my life sitting on a ridge watching me in the watershed one time, and I was going to shoot it, but I didn't know what the hell it was, to tell you the truth. It was so big.
Right.
Me and my brother-in-law were trying to figure out, that's a big coyote,
Do you think it was a coyote?
It was real big. It was a real funny color too. It was too much. It was lighter than a coyote, way lighter. And it just sat there looking at us real oddly.
Yeah. With intelligence, kind of watching you.
Yeah.
Do you think that was
it obviously saw us, knew we saw it. And then I looked at my brother-in-law, looked back, and it was gone. And we'd been watching it for about a minute or two. And it took off, and so it started to get a little bit dark, and we thought we'd just start hunting down the ridge to our horses, and that's when we heard something real odd, just a real weird screech, and it wasn't a growl. But it was just I'd never heard anything like that sound in my life.
Yeah.
In the mountains. And it kind of put the hair on my neck back up, and I said, it's time to get out of here. So we just left. We went down the ridge, got our horses, and one of the horses, like I told you, had busted loose off the tree, and we started looking around, and about 30 elk ran right past the horses about 20 feet away, and that's why the one horse, I think, pulled back and broke his lead rope, but luckily he stayed with the other horse. I was glad he did. And because it's a couple hour ride out. So knowing what you know now,
do you think that was a coyote, or do you think that was a Dogman?
I think it was Dogman. I really do.
Yeah.
I after all this happened, that thing hit me like that, and I was like, okay, now it's starting to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And because in the watershed where I'd go at the bottom a couple hours, we'd go in at 1:30 in the morning. We had to leave that early. We'd take the horses all the way up in the trailer up to the bottom. It was called intake on the Mill Creek watershed. Then we'd go at the bottom for a couple hours, and then find a place right there and go across the Mill Creek, the creek, and we'd go up a ridge off of what's called Paradise, and we'd go up there and tie the horses up about 200, 300 yards up the ridge, and then hunt up from there, But I hunted in there probably 5 different times. I drew that shed. That was a coveted tag.
Okay.
But I had some weird things happening there. One day I'm sitting on the ridge and I hear, somebody, boom! They weren't 100 yards from me. I jumped about 2 feet, and I didn't think there was anybody in there at all. And it's a big area, and there's only like 15 tags or something, and so. Next thing I know, here comes this guy walking up the ridge, and I look at him, and he's got an eye that's obviously fake, and it's got goop all around it. And he comes up, and I go, "What are you shooting at?" And he goes, "I was shooting at an elk." I said, "Well, was it a big bull or what?" He goes, "Oh, I heard it. I was putting off some sound shots." And I went, "What's that?" And he goes, "Well, I heard it running through the brush, so I shot it in the brush." And I'm like, I got mad. I said, "You dumb idiot." I said, "I'm up here on the ridge here, and the funny thing is, the next day he got a cow. He shot a cow, and I had gone down the ridge, and because I heard him shooting, and I ran into him. And he's cleaning this cow, and I said, "Well, you need to skin that cow, get the hide off it, or it'll go bad, because you can leave a hide on a deer and just open the cavity up, and they'll be all right because it's cold at night. But an elk, you can't do that. That hair is hollow." So I told him, I said, "Hey, you got to take all that hair off. It'll be bad." He said, okay. And I left. I come back the next day, and he and his son-in-law had come all the way in. And They had left. He had wrapped everything up in plastic, with the hair inside. And when I got to the animal, I'm looking at it, and they're both standing there. And I look down, and I can see stuff moving underneath that hide.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, hey, this is all bad. You just might as well leave it.
Yeah.
And they're like, why? And I said, because you rolled it up. It's all bad.
There's maggots in it.
In here. Yeah, it's already gone bad on you. And when I left, that damn kid was cussing his father-in-law out. He was so mad because they came off not to the intake. They came off the top. So that means they had to climb all the way up out of there. And that's what they were going to do with those elk. They were going to climb them all the way out of there. It was just stupid,
Wow.
I wouldn't even do that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But I got on my horse and I left them there. I didn't offer to take their elk out. I wasn't going to take that thing out. It was no good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an area that's just so much wilderness there that you could hide in there forever. You would never get found.
Yep. Yep.
And then you can't go in there. Everything around my fence there is watershed, so you can't go in there.
Federal land butts right up to your property.
Yeah. And we'd get in there and we'd see 15, 16, 20 bulls in a bunch. And we'd say, okay, that's too steep over there. We're not going to shoot them over there. There was a lot of elk in there at the time. And then by the time I went in there the last time, there wasn't quite as many elk in there, which was surprising me.
Yeah.
And because there should be a lot more, but I think now, it's like I told you before, I said I think every Dogman should be gone. There's no reason for them to be on this earth. What do they do? What do they do good for you? They don't do anything good for you.
No.
They're just killing, and everything's food, everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Humans, animals, it's all food.
Every little animal, I don't care what kind it is, or fish, or anything else, it's going to take it.
Yep.
Anything that gets in front of it, smells it, they're going to be on it. And just like I used to think, well, if I saw a Bigfoot, I wouldn't shoot them. But I think now I would. But some people probably not like me to, say that. But I'm sorry to say that. But if they're taking lives, I don't think they should be here.
Right. I agree. If taking lives and this and that.
I had a gun made for old Dogman. I got a 300 PRC, and it'll take those things. There's no doubt.
Yep.
It's a big bullet. I'm shooting about a 225 grain bullet. 3,000 feet per second.
Yep.
And I had a buddy that makes guns. He's a friend of mine. He makes guns and sells a lot of big guns. Makes every cartridge known to man. And I told him about the deal, and he said, "Bill, this will take them." And so the only thing about it is it's not good for running shots, all that kind of stuff. It's made for shooting something standing or whatever.
Stationary.
It is a big gun,
Yeah. Well, I want to bring something up real quick because just so people don't get the misunderstanding. All right. So you'd made this statement, Bigfoot, Dogman. You don't think they should be on the planet. They are. They are. Yeah. What do they do? Now you're a rancher, so anybody that I've ever met that owns cows or has a farm. There's always vermin, there's always pest animals and shit like that. But like wolves serve a purpose for certain things,
Well, we get a certain amount.
Right.
You get over that amount, then they kill. You're going to lose all your deer. You're going to lose all your elk. And then when they get done with that, they will take the bears, small bear. They'll take the cubs. They'll take the yearlings. They'll take what they can when they get hungry.
Right. But dogmen, on the opposite side of that, they don't do anything other than.
No, they just hunt.
Yeah.
They're hunting all the time. That's all they're doing. They're just moving, probably hunting. I don't know how. I like to know how far they travel every day. Maybe some of them sit for a while, whatever. But they're just trying to find something to. They get a smell on something. They're gonna go on the hunt and they can outrun anything. They can run it. They can outrun stuff easy.
Yeah.
And they'll probably take all the smaller elk first. But we're losing in our area, we're really losing. I used to go up and see 20, 30 deer in a bunch. I don't see 3 or 4 now. And I just think that there's probably too many of them, and when they come into an area, they're gonna work that area.
Yep.
And then when the stuff's gone, they'll move.
They move on. Yeah.
They'll move to 10, 20 miles, whatever, and then start again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
you had mentioned also the because we had talked, and I'd not spoken to you in a couple of years.
yeah.
Now, when I had brought up Meeker, Colorado, and the rancher that I was talking to last year around this time, Carl, and I told you, what went on at his buddy's property, and I said, his friend was behind his property, heard, it sounded like a war zone, bunch of shots.
Yep.
That night, that day that you shot those dogmen, if I'm not mistaken, the same day that you were talking about your friend or something asked you, did you start unloading one day? Was that the same day where they heard a bunch of rounds going off, but that wasn't you?
No, it wasn't me. I didn't. I told him. I said I haven't been up there. I didn't even tell him I was out there that day or anything else. I just said no, I wasn't up there. And I said, if I was, I'd tell you. But I said, what did it sound like? He said, no, it was a whole bunch. It would sound like a war zone. He said, it was just a whole bunch. He said, it wasn't just one person. It was 2 or 3. And he said, it just, a lot of shooting. And he kept pointing to that, you kept saying that ridge out there, that goes out, that long ridge. And I was like, okay, I know what ridge he's talking about, because that's the one I was on before. And I own some of that ridge, but mine starts down below a little bit. And I just told him no, and then I told you after that. I talked to my one brother-in-law, and he said he was going up on the mountain, and he ran into a couple staters dressed in black and had all their gear on, and they run razors, and he stopped my brother-in-law. They did, and wanted his license and who he was and what's he doing up there, and they never do that, and so he gave them all this stuff, and they said okay. And he said, we got land up here, and that was about. He was down the road about a mile from our place where this all happened, and so he goes up there a week later, and the same guys stopped him again and asked him for all his stuff again, and he said, I just gave you this last week, and they're like they just wouldn't even talk to him about that. He was kind of mad that he was like, I gave you all this last week. I talked to you before. Here's my name and everything else. So they just I think they were trying to hassle him. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause how many people,
why were they up there that time of year? My brother-in-law had a real nice big tires and Toyota, let the air out and everything else. But those guys usually don't go up there that time of year.
Right.
It's odd.
And how many people go up there, that often to where they're not going to forget what your brother-in-law looks like.
Yeah, cop would. Normally they would say, "Oh yeah, I saw you last week." No, they would. They didn't say any of that.
Yeah, they have photographic memories.
They wanted to see his ID, and then they were looking at a map and figuring out if he was a landowner up there, or was he's married to my sister, so he gave him my name, and that made it all right, but. I don't know why they were hassling him. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been going up there. I did my whole life as a kid. Never got asked my ID or anything else like that.
Where that location is, how close to the watershed is that?
Well, that's in Oregon, and I'd probably be from the watershed, maybe going back toward Washington, maybe a couple miles. It's a couple miles. Probably.
Okay. So within a general vicinity.
Oh yeah, man, it's steep. It's steep. The stuff in Oregon is steep. When you get out on the breaks out there, it goes all the way down to Blaylock on the other side. That's steep. Nobody even hunts over there anymore. Years ago, they'd hunt over there. The guys would come from Portland and go over there, but it's all been locked up for about 30 years now. It's locked up, and you can't even go over there. But it's steep. It's I used to hear shooting over there as a kid.
Yeah.
When I was out hunting and stuff, I'd hear shooting, boom, boom. I knew that something was running, and they were shooting at it. But, I'd never see the people because it's so damn thick on those ridges and stuff, but I'd hear the banging. And then for 20 years, I never even heard a person shoot over there.
Yeah. Now, when you mean...
It's all locked up.
When you mean locked up, what do you mean? Like, it's fenced
off, and then they got a gate down at the bottom, and then they got cables around the gate.
Yeah.
They got chains and a lock, big lock. And then anywhere going into that property, it's locked up there. And into that big area, there's maybe only 2 different ways in. And so they did take a lot of trees out of there, and they replanted trees up on top because the top's real flat. So it's an odd looking thing. It looks like a hat brim, kind of all the way around.
Okay.
And it's just an odd looking area, but it's real steep. Until you get over there, it don't look so steep. Then you get over there, and it's like, oh boy. What
is the explanation for that being locked up?
It was owned by a timber company years and years ago, and that's why they let people in to hunt and stuff, people that knew the families that owned it or whatever, and that had people and stuff. But for some reason, it's just all locked up now, and I don't know anybody that's been in there ever.
Now, when me and you were talking, I was thinking about like that one, the road is that the same road that's locked up too that you need a key to, or is that different?
No, this is the next ridge over. That where I am is Government Mountain Road. That's what it's called.
Okay.
But they started putting a cable across the bottom and locking people out of there in the winter. And it's kind of odd. They did that for a couple of years, then they opened it back up, and now I heard they're locking it up again.
I wonder if
I can get a key, but I haven't talked to the people that are taking care of that right now.
Right, because you're a landowner for that one area.
But I can get a key. They can't stop me from going into my place.
Right, that other property. I wonder if, just speculation, but I wonder if they know. Obviously a fence isn't going to keep one of these creatures
I've
in.
never seen cattle over there ever.
Yeah,
we never put cattle in there, and like my area, some of my fences are probably down. I get cattle in my place every year that aren't supposed to be there, but that's just because the fence. I don't keep the fence up as well as I used to do. The people that have cattle up there are supposed to do that my fence, to keep them out of my place, but half the time they don't. They just want some free feed.
Yeah.
Good thing. So and I used to go up every year and keep all the fence up, but most of it's up. It goes down.
No, I wonder if they're keeping something in there, though. Like I wonder if.
Yeah, I really wonder. I just, years ago, there were so many people hunting up there. Now it's all locked up.
Yeah.
And people just can't get in there like they used to. And we had a thing years ago that anybody that owned ground up there, big landowners, they could go on our ground. We could go on theirs. We didn't have to ask. It was just a thing we had.
Like courtesy.
All of it did. There might have been 30,000 acres there that we could go on. But nobody chewed your ass out if you were on somebody else's ground, as long as you were a landowner.
Right.
Well, that's all changed. People came in from California that had a bunch of avocado ranches. They came in, bought a bunch of ground, and locked it all up. They locked it all up, and that's the way it's been for all these years now, about 15, 20 years. I still used to hunt up there until it got to the place where I just, my hip was hurting me, and I stopped hunting up there, and this thing bothered me too, so I didn't want to go up there for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
Quite a while. I haven't been up there in a couple of years, at least, just driven up to the gate. But I think the last time I went up there, I went up to the gate and came home. I didn't even go in.
So through your years of living up there and all this, and after your experience, have you ever heard anybody ever share or mention Dogman?
The only person is after my thing was on your podcast. I had a guy call me that I knew.
Yeah.
And he just wanted me to. He asked if I could come by his house, and he lives up toward College Place, about maybe a couple miles from me, and I asked him what about, and he didn't want to say anything. He just said, I don't want to say anything on the phone. I want you to come to my house. And I just thought that was odd. And So I went over to his house, and that's when he told me. He said, I saw your deal, Bill, and he said, I want to tell you what happened to me. And he was up elk hunting in what is called Blue Creek, which is, we used to own 1,400 acres there, that cattle in there. But he was up toward the watershed. He's probably only 500 yards from the watershed. And they looked down the ridge, and way down the ridge, and about 300 yards away, they see this thing coming up the ridge. And it'd go from some trees there and some brush over to here. And he said it was on 2 feet. He said he didn't know it was Dogman and Bigfoot, but he said it was big and it was black. And he said as soon as they saw it go a little bit, and they watched it for 5 minutes, they figured out it was coming up toward them. And that scared the hell out of them, and they just both left. And they went up the ridge. They only had to go up the ridge about 100 yards to get to the road. And they got the hell out of there. And then they went back up. They got a cabin up there, and they went up another time and went to the cabin, and then were leaving right at dark, and they're coming out, and something black jumped from one side of the road all the way across, never touched the road at all. And he said it was big like a bear, but he said a bear can't jump that far, because it's, we're talking 24 feet or something. He was asking me about it, and I said, man, I don't know. And I told him just be real careful where you're out there, because you're right by the shed line. Everything just goes into the shed, and it's never going to get followed or anything else. And,
right.
And we used to lose maybe 1 cow a year or 2, and then it started going up. And then I know up in Oregon where this happened, I asked the girl that has cattle up there, the last time I seen her, I asked her, how many cattle did you lose last year? She said 8.
Wow.
And she said she looked down the ridge one day. She was on her horse. I think she was putting salt out or checking the fence or something. And she said she looked about, I don't know, must have been, she said 1,000 yards away. And she said she seen one of her yearlings running around this ridge. And she got her glasses out, and she said it was the biggest damn wolf she'd ever seen in her life, chasing one of her yearlings. And it wasn't just a yearling. It was like a 2-year-old heifer. A bred heifer.
Yeah.
And he said that thing was right on her ass, and she said she didn't have a gun, and that's when she tried to hire me to go up and run the range for him up there, because she knew I could shoot, and she knew I knew the area, and I could ride, and I could track, I could do everything. And she wanted me to go up there and shoot everything I could find, and I said, well, the wolves are federally protected. I can get in a lot of trouble here. She goes, well, I won't tell anybody if you don't tell nobody. And I didn't. At the time, I was like, boy, I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah.
I knew what had happened to me, and this thing was probably 600, 700 yards from where I was when that happened. And that was right where she saw it running around the ridges, where I seen those rocks all stacked up. And that's where nobody goes. Nobody goes out there. It's miles away from the road. You'd get lost getting out there to the breaks, and when you get out there, you go down the ridge about 100 yards, and then there's some rocks stacked up on this little rock bluff, which is really strange, because it never was there when I was a kid. I'd go out there as a kid. Every so many years, I'd go out there. That's why I went out to shoot big bucks. They always had a big buck out there, and nobody go out there, and that's where you get the big bucks. But when she told me where it was running around the hill, I got a funny feeling.
Yeah.
Because she said, I said, well, was it a bear? And she goes, no, it wasn't a bear. It was just the biggest wolf I ever seen in my life. And she goes, it was going to catch my heifer, Bill. She goes, it was right on its ass.
And a 2.5-year-old heifer is not, for those people that don't.
1,200, 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, they're not small. They're not
They're big Angus.
Yeah. So
and it ran around. She just saw it. We got the glasses on it. Saw what was happening, and then it hit the timber pocket, and that cow never going to make it. It never did come out the other end. So, and she couldn't get over there. It'd take her 5 hours to get over there on a horse. So she just let it go, and she's positive she lost that one.
Yeah.
I told her, I said, I'd never seen a wolf chasing a cow. I seen a bear grab one of my cows that was dead. I didn't know she was dead. I looked over and I saw the bear sneaking up on one of my cows, and I was like, I ain't got no gun, and I couldn't yell. It was too far, and we could see she's coming right off the ridge. It's just open area. It's open, and this bear is big. I think I told you this before, but it was big. It was like a 500-pounder. It was big, and it snuck up, kind of kept putting its nose up in the air, and it got about 30 yards uphill from my cow, and the cow I thought was sleeping, but it was dead. And the bear takes off full run, jumps on top of my cow, grabs it, and just goes, kind of just shakes it up and down. And I'm going, whoa! And then she grabbed that cow and started pulling it up the hill. And I just, wow, that's a big bear to pull that 1,400 pound cow up the ridge. Because I had big cows. They were a little tiny bit of Simmental in them and Angus, and they were big cows. And but man, I'd never seen that before in my life. But that was a bear. It was a bear.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, that was because that cow was already dead.
Right.
That's why he did that. I don't think he killed it. I think he found that cow right then, or you know, he wouldn't have stopped, put his nose up in the air, and act like he did. I think he just found it.
Yeah.
And that's how he can clean up my cow. I thought, well, the cow's dead. You know, he can go clean it up.
Yeah, yeah. And back to that woman with the thing, with that whole Meeker, Colorado thing, I learned a lot talking to that rancher. His name was Carl, but I didn't know, you know, I knew common sense things that are, you know, but learning all about the wolves and cattle, you know, there was...
They don't mix too good.
They don't, no, but it doesn't, it's not going to be...
We never had wolves in our country till I was 40 years old.
Yeah.
They put them in there.
But it's not going to be one wolf.
And I fought that because I was on the Cattleman Board of Directors. We fought that, but, you know, we weren't going to win that fight.
Right.
And they're trying to put grizzlies in there now. So.
But it's not going to...
I think they already have.
Right. But it's not going to be one wolf.
No.
Chasing...
They make sure they get some packs.
Right.
And we now are over our quota. And, you know, because they got nothing bothering them, hardly. And so, but I haven't seen one in my area for a while. But I let a guy go up there turkey hunting a year ago, and I didn't say nothing to him about this. Him and his daughter, and they went up there. I told them where to sit. I tried to get him just right inside the gate and not go nowhere. And they got a big old tom turkey right there. And I know there was never turkeys up there before. But they sent me a picture of a big wolf track right there where they were hunting. And I said, yeah, that's a big wolf, buddy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was big. It was easy to see it. You know, the snow was only about a half inch deep. It was just made a beautiful imprint, just beautiful. It was pretty fresh. I told him, I didn't tell you. I told him shoot him if you find him. Sorry, feds. I'm sorry for the feds that are listening to this. They probably don't like me now.
Yeah. Well, they got to prove it.
I don't see any reason for it to be in our area. I mean, the problem is you want a certain amount, but you always get more because they have babies, and you know.
Yeah.
That's just what happens. Now all the elk are coming down the mountain now and going into my buddy's ground at the base of the mountain. He'll have 300 cow, you know, elk in a bunch and bulls, and they're just trying to get away from all the stuff up in the snow because they can't run as good as those other things can up there.
Yep.
They can run through snow and get anything. They're gonna clean out the area, no doubt.
Yeah, and that's what me and you were talking about. I said, you know, these elk, deer, hell, even bear. When these dogmen are up there,
yep, they'll take any cub, any yearling. They're pretty easy for them to kill.
Yeah.
And that's what they did in Idaho. My brother-in-law, he used to go to Idaho every year bow hunting, and they did really good for about 3, 4, 5 years. Then all of a sudden the wolves showed up and grizzlies, and then the last year they were there, a grizzly took two hunters that were about 2 miles from him there, and really did a hurt on them. And so they didn't go back up there. They just figured that wasn't worth it. But the guys did it. They shot an elk, and they were packing it out. They had the elk at the camp, and the bear came in at night and just took them. And they were you know, just grizzlies.
Yep.
You know, they got so smart that they hear the shot now, and they go to where the shot now.
Yeah.
In Idaho.
Free food.
You know, that's just smart.
Yeah. It's free food.
Easy picking. They get the guts. They get the whatever didn't get taken. You know, that's a good meal for them.
Absolutely.
They like that. The innards are good stuff for them, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but now there are hardly any elk in there because they got so many wolves and whatever else in there.
Yeah. most
So
definitely.
we got a lot of cats in our area now too. We got a lot of cats.
We'll end the interview in a few minutes. I want to talk to you after privately, but if you don't mind, I kind of wanted to end the interview on an interesting kind of funny story that you told me about when we were talking about mountain lion and panther, and we were talking about how they'll watch children. You want to tell that story about what you told me about going? You said I'll go through the front door and get it out the back door.
Yeah, what happened is I was at the house here one day and I get a call. It was about 2-3 in the afternoon. It's still sunny out. It was summer, and I get a call that there's a cat in somebody's backyard, big cougar, and over here by Mill Creek, was about straight over from me, about maybe 2 miles away, and toward the highway really, and but they're right along Mill Creek, which is a nice creek, and there's steelhead in there and salmon and stuff, and they were looking. Their kids were out in the yard. They got a nice yard there, and it goes around the trees all around it and brush and all that, and the stuff outside of there. The government will pay you so much if you'll let them put trees and grass in rows, and they put plastic down in between it to try to keep the weeds out and all that. And the kids were out there playing, and he kept thinking, God, that's a big log that fell down out there. He thought it had fallen down. And so he gets his glasses and looks over there, and here's this cat, big cougar, laying on the ground, and his tail's going back and forth, looking at the kids. And they're probably 50 yards away from that cat. And so he called got the kids in the house, and he called somebody that knew me. And so I grabbed the 10 gauge and took this other guy that called me with me, and we go flying over there. It only took me, by the time to get over there, I think 15 minutes, 10 minutes. And he said that the damn thing had got up and walked into the brush there, and so the grass, and so I got him behind me. He had a pistol. I had the 10 gauge, and I started walking through that grass, and I got out there a ways, and I started feeling real uncomfortable. That damn stuff was about 4 feet high, and I'm 6'2", but I knew right then that cat, he could be on me and real quick. I mean, I was going to see him 10, 15 feet, and that was about it. And I knew he was in there because I hadn't been that long. He wasn't walking that fast, but he was in there. And I got in there a little ways, and I told my buddy, I said, this ain't good. I thought this grass was a lot shorter, and I said, let's just back out of here. And we backed out. And I told the guy, I said, if you ever see that cat again, you call me. I'll come through your front door, shoot out the back door, and I'll get rid of that cat. And I said he'll be back because there's a lot of deer here, and he probably just moved in. But I never got a call there. I never got another call. But he said it was a big cat. He said it was, big. And he just probably been cleaning up on deer and stuff. But I told him, I said, if his tail he was laying on the ground looking at the kids, and his tail is going back and forth. He's on the hunt.
He's hunting those kids, yeah.
And he's about ready to come.
Yep.
And he's lucky he saw that, because those kids were running around the yard and yelling and stuff. That cat just laid there. And that's the second cat. The other one was right down the road here, just maybe just a quarter mile away down the road, walking right down the side of the road. And my buddy was out on his porch and looked out and goes, boy, that's a big dog. He got his glasses, and he's 60 yards away from it, and he looks at it, and it's a big cougar walking down the gravel on the side of the road, paved road. And all of a sudden he heard a rig coming down the road, and the cat walked into the alfalfa field, laid down, and watched the car drive by, then stood up, walked back out on the gravel road, and walked down the road about 50 yards, and then went into the berry bushes. And I'm like, oh man, we got kids all over out here in the country here. I said, man, that's just not good.
Yep.
And I told him, I said, next time you see that cat, you call me. I'll come over and put a leash on it.
Yeah. Then the reason,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. The reason why I wanted to end the interview with that is because, when you and I were talking, I had told you about when I saw what I believe to be a mountain lion crossover and I live in the foothills of the Adirondacks. And I called Fish and Game, and they said, no, we don't got any kind of mountain lion, and they say it in your area as well. But the state trooper told me, yeah, it's probably a mountain lion. And
because he's seen him get hit on the road, the highway or whatever.
Yeah. But
and I don't know why the game department doesn't want to tell you the truth. This is what they do over here too.
It doesn't make sense.
You call them and they'll deny it and deny it and deny it, and then you tell them, "Well, I'm going to shoot that because my buddy saw a grizzly, and he knew it was a grizzly, and he told them, went down to the game department and told them, hey, I saw a grizzly. Nope, there's no grizzlies here. He goes, and it was bear season. He was hunting bear. He goes, no, there's no grizzly here. He said, he kept telling him, no, I come from Alaska. I know grizzlies when I see them. I've been hunting bear for 10 years here. Black bear, they're either black or brown or cinnamon or whatever. But he could see the hump on it and everything else. And he told him one more time, he said, no, it was a grizzly. And he said, no, there ain't no grizzlies here. And he goes, well, I'm going to go back up tomorrow and shoot that black bear. And that game warden looked at him and said, you shoot that black bear, we're going to arrest you.
Yep.
And he just knew right then that they just didn't want to admit that it was a grizzly bear. See?
Yeah. So if
they've been putting them into the John Day, and then they've been putting them into here, maybe in the Wallowas and stuff. What we do is we get the problem grizzly.
Yep.
That's what they bring in here.
Yeah.
So they don't want to tell us. They ain't gonna tell us till they got a whole bunch.
Right. So right there, why I wanted to do that and share that is because Fish and Game is willing to lie about mountain lion and grizzly, even though they know damn well. Well, we all know that they're lying about these other dogmen and these other things that people are seeing. And, they're well aware of it and part of the problem.
Yeah, I think, and on Bigfoot, I think my grandpa had seen one dead in the back of a truck. I think what happened is somebody shot one that he was a warden and during elk season, and he got called in on it. He wouldn't tell me this, but I heard this later. Okay. And that he was called in on that, and he just didn't want to ever talk about it. Because I asked him about that later, and he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to talk about it. And he just, so I think there's things out there that they just don't want to talk about, and they don't want no trouble. Yeah. And I don't know. I think they've been here since the dawn of man.
Yeah. Yep.
I think just like the Egyptian time, you saw those pictures of one standing. That's pretty much it right there. Yep. I don't think they're trainable. You might be able to train one or two, but most of them are going to turn on you. You turn your back, they're going to take you. They're a killing machine.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yep.
Well, don't hang up. It was awesome having you back on. I'm telling you, when I had new subs come on the show and listen, and people asked about you. How have you talked to Bill?
That.
And
I did tell you I'm sorry about my cussing earlier because I always cussed a lot when I was working cattle, so it was just something in my life. I never really thought about it. I didn't mean to offend anybody or go to hell because I cussed. But it's just something I was always used to, so I'll try to watch that a little bit. Yeah,
well, there was no issue, my friend. It's just people liked, the way that you told your experience, and and it was so weird how this interview took place because I just shared your experience, and then out of the blue, you didn't even hear it. Just out of the blue, you text me, "Hey, how are you?" And I'm like, holy shit! I said,
I listened to that one on the border patrol. When Dogman took all those people, and that made me mad. Yep. And then I listened to a Bigfoot one where they were taking some kids and stuff, and that made me mad too. Yeah. And so I kind of lost my fear right then. I don't know why but if I'm mad, that kind of propels me. And so as soon as it gets nice out, a couple months, I'm going to go up to where this happened. I can send you a film right from where it's at and show you. But I'm going to go back up, and I'm not going to get myself in a position where I can't get a shot or anything like that. You got to be able to take a shot. They're not going to come out in a big old open area either. They're pretty smart. I've learned a lot from your station too.
I appreciate that.
But I had that one gun made just for this. And then I got a friend that's got a 50 cal. I can set him out on the bluff too. And I don't really like having anybody with me. I don't want to be being taking care of somebody like that.
Right.
I just soon go up by myself.
That's how I feel when people are like, why don't you bring somebody with you when you go up to where Tom Mesick disappeared? And I'm like, because if anything happens, I don't want to be responsible for that person.
That's right. And I don't want to be wondering when this is going down, where are they at? What are they doing? Are they all right? Hey, that'll just get me killed. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I hunted a lot, even though I had a lot of brother-in-laws and things like that. I love to hunt by myself. I've always been a loner that way. I love to hunt by myself. I can do it all day long.
Yeah.
And I always figured I was the best when I was by myself.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right, brother. Don't hang up. I want to talk to you a little bit more.
Okay.
But it was awesome having you back on. I really appreciate you coming back on.
Anytime, Jeff, and everybody out there, take care. Just be safe. Don't do stupid things in the mountains. Always have somebody with you. Put your food away at night. Everything. I mean, use your brain.
Yeah, and bring a firearm with you. Key.
Oh, hell yes.
You know.
Hell yeah.
You know, and I say this.
Bring a shotgun, pistol, at least a pistol, and you know, no 22s.
Yeah.
That's just gonna make them mad.
You might as well bring a pellet gun if you're going to bring a 22. But
that's right. Throw a rock at them.
You know, whatever. I say this to people all the time. You know, like people will be like, "Oh, you know, there's some people out there that are like, oh, just say a prayer before you go in the woods, and they won't bother you."
That ain't gonna help you.
You know, well, yeah, exactly.
That's not going to help. I mean, it'd be nice if it did.
Yeah.
It might make you feel a little better, but doing it, what I tell people is, take the biggest gun you can handle.
Yep.
You can handle very well.
Yep.
If you can't shoot it good, I mean, downsize a little bit, but the bigger the better. But you know,
yeah,
shotgun is always good. You know, most people, shotguns is good, real good.
Yeah. And my thing is if you don't, you know, if you got your firearm with you and, you know, just, you don't happen to see one of these creatures, but you run across a mountain lion or a freaking bear, it's best to have something with you at all times anyway.
Yeah, because the only time you really like get taken by any of those is if you could buy a cub, you know, get in between I remember one day I was doing fence and it started raining, and me and my buddy we only got about an hour left of fencing to be done, and we're doing this fence, and I just got a funny feel on it. I look up, and here's two baby cub bears above me, about 5 feet above me in the tree. I said, "Hey, Louis, look at this," and he looked up, and they looked so cute. They're just a little bear. They were only about 20 pounds each. They were just a little bear, and all of a sudden I thought, where in the hell's Mom at?
Yeah.
And that's when I heard Mom snapping her teeth. And I told Louis, I said, just leave the fence stretchers, the wire, everything. Let's go. And so we just threw that shit down and ran downhill, because I had to go downhill to get to the rig, and it was down in the creek bottom of Blue Creek, and we run all the way down there and had to come up just to finish that the next day. But you know, when I heard the mama bear, I was like, okay, she's gonna come back over here, and we just took off because we were right there in the timber. But those little bears, they were cute. Cute little things. Yeah.
They don't stay cute for too long.
No, I know the mom, you know, had put them up the tree. She knew exactly where they were at. And as soon as I started talking loud, I think that's when she went, okay. And I think she started coming over, and we just took off.
Right.
So, but
all right, buddy.
You just got to use your brain.
Exactly. Know? It was great having you back. I'll talk.
Thank you.
I want to talk to you, so don't hang up. All right.
Okay. All right, Jeff.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed tonight's second bonus with Big Bill, Wild Bill from Walla Walla. Guys, thank you for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, our family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events, well, they've happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.